This video is on completing the square when a is not equal to 1, meaning I have a number in front of my x squared that is no longer 1. So what I need to make sure I do first is that my a and my b term are on one side and my c term is on the other. So this is my a term, this is my c term because it doesn't have an x, and this is my b term. So I want to get this negative 20x to the other side. In order to do that, I have to add 20x to both sides. Okay, so I get 5x squared plus 20x equals 60, and these 20x's cancel out. Now, step 2, I need to add in my spaces. So I have 5x squared plus 20x plus space equals 60 plus space. Now from here, we need to look at the left side only, so the 5x squared plus 20x, and we need to look for a GCF for the 5x and for the 5 and the 20. So the GCF of it is 5, so I'm going to divide this by 5, this one by 5, and the space by 5. So I get 5 is my GCF. 5x squared divided by 5 leaves me with an x squared. 20x divided by 5 is a positive 4x. And then I still have my space equals 60 plus my space. Okay. From here, I look at my b term, which is this right here, and I take half of it. So half of 4 equals 2, and then I square it. So 2 squared equals 4. So 4 goes in this blank. Now, in order to fill out the other side, I have to remember I have to multiply that 4 by this 5 in order to come over to the right side. So 5 times 4 is 20. So now I go to my shortcut. I have my parentheses squared. I have my variable x and my half term, which was 2. And I have to remember to bring down this 5 and keep it in front. And it equals, and it equals 80. Okay. Now, if I wanted to put this in vertex form, because you will need to know how to do that, I would just move over the 80, so vertex form off to the side. So the vertex form of this would be 5x plus 2 squared minus 80, because I moved over that 80, and it equals 0. So there's the vertex form. The reason I did not divide out 5 in the beginning is because I wanted to make sure we get the correct vertex form. So now, from here, I have to remember that I'm multiplying the 5 times the parentheses, so I'm going to divide by 5 to get rid of it. 5's cancel out. I'm left with an x plus 2 squared, and 80 divided by 5 is 16. From here, I take the square root of both sides. The radical cancels out the exponent. I'm left with x plus 2. The square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. It is always plus or minus when we are solving equations. From here, I need to know what x is, so I split it up and I set it equal to 4. And I'm going to set x plus 2 equal to negative 4 and solve for x. So I subtract 2 on both sides. X equals 2. From here, I do minus 2, negative 4 minus 2. I get x equals negative 6. So these are my roots, my solutions, my zeros, my x-intercepts. Okay, I go to the next example. I have 6x squared minus 48 equals a negative 12. Again, I need my a and my b on one side and my c on the other. So if I notice, I have my a and c on the same side and my b on the other, so I'm going to move my c term over and my b term at the same time. So to move the c term, I'm going to add 48 to both sides. To move the b term, I add 12x to both sides. So over here, the 48's cancel out. I'm left with a 6x squared plus a 12x equals, the 12x's cancel out, and I'm left with equals 48. from here I add my spaces. Okay, so I have plus 12 blank, and then 48 plus blank. Now I look for my greatest common factor of 6 and 12. Well, that GCF would be 6. So I'm dividing everything by 6 on the left side. My GCF goes on the outside. I'm left with an x squared plus a 2x plus space, and my right side stays the same. Okay, from here, I take this term right here and I'm going to half it. So half of 2 equals 1, and then I square it. So 1 squared equals 1, so 1 goes here. Now remember, in order to go on the other side, I have to multiply my GCF 6 times the 1 and get 6. So again, I did 6 times 1 to get that 6. Now I go to my parentheses squared. I have my variable and my half term, and I can't forget to bring down that GCF. And it's equal to 48 plus 6 is 54. Okay, from here I need to solve. So remember that I am multiplying the 6 in the parentheses. So I divide both sides by 6. 6's cancel out. I'm left with x plus 1 squared equals 54 divided by 6 is 9. I take the square root of both sides. The radical cancels out the exponent. I get x plus 1 equals square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. From here, I start simplifying. So plus 1 equals 3. X plus 1 equals negative 3. To solve, I subtract 1 from both sides. X equals 2. From here, I subtract 1 as well, but negative 3 minus 1 gives me x equals negative 4. And again, these are my roots, my zeros, my solutions, my x-intercepts. Okay, last example for this video. I have a negative x squared plus a 6x equals a 91. So in this one, I have a and b on the same side and c on the opposite, so I'm good. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my spaces. Okay, then my GCF, notice that the negative 1 and 6 don't really have anything in common, but I don't like that x squared being negative, so I'm going to divide by negative 1. Okay, so I get a negative 1 on the outside. I have an x squared. It changes my sign to a negative 6x, and I still have my plus space equals 91 plus blank. Okay, I take my b term and I'm going to half it. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Then I square it. So negative 3 squared equals 9. So I place a 9 here. And remember, I have to take that negative 1 and that 9 and I have to multiply them. Okay, so 9 times the GCF, which was negative 1. And I get a negative 9 here. So now I get a negative. So I go to my shortcut, parentheses squared, my variable, and my half term, which is negative 3, and I bring down that GCF I factored out. Over here, I add these two numbers. 91 plus a negative 9 is 82. So I divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. That cancels out. I get x minus 3 squared equals a negative 82. So now from here, I need to take the square root. So take the square root of both sides. Remember, the radical cancels out the exponent. I get x minus 3. Okay, and then I need to simplify the square root of negative 82. Well, remember, square root of a negative 82, well, there's a negative number, so we're going to split it up into 82 times negative 1. Okay, 82 times negative 1. And we would go through our list. So this is close to 180, or yeah, 181. So we would go 10 squared. Is 10 squared go into 82? Nope. 9 squared? Nope, that doesn't go into it. And we keep working our way up. and we would find out that nothing goes into it. No perfect square goes into 82. So I break it up to the square root of 82 times the square root of -1. So it stays the square root of 82. And the square root of -1 is I. So I get that. So it simplifies to plus or minus I rad 82. In order to solve for x, I add 3 to both sides. Add 3 to both sides. My x equals a positive 3 plus or minus the square root, or plus or minus I square root of 82. This is my answer. You can also split it up as x equals 3 plus I rad 82 and x equals 3 minus I rad 82. Okay, so these also work. This would be a case where you can't factor, so you would have to complete the square or do the quadratic formula, which we will be learning about next week. So this is the video of completing the square when a does not equal 1.